next year. I believe it's this year. This year. Some people don't like it, but that's okay because I love it enough for all of us. And hey, hello team, my name is Monique. Welcome back to the Cauldron and this year's top 10 reads. Let's do it. In case you didn't know, this is Bookwitch is my channel, and I know that I have been a bit absent, but I am back, and I am back with the delight that is my most beloved reads of the year. Has this cut down been hard? Yes. Also, the majority of these, they could all be the top, but especially the last 4 were really hard. But this is my top 10. Let's jump straight through them. If you're ready to hear me gush about all of my favorite books for the year, then please stay and join me on the ride. I don't know why I'm so weird, but this is where we are today. First up, in the wonderful number 10, we have The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers, which was one of the first books that I read this year. I read it as an ARC, and this is a beautiful gift from my friend Justine from I Should Read That, who you should definitely check out. This is the 4th book in the Wayfarer series, where we are following 4 separate characters who end up stuck together on this intergalactic truck stop, and their stories are weaved gently together. Like, Becky Chambers does character development like no one else. Nothing even really has to happen, and I will read it forever. There is talk about this being the last Wayfarer book, and I am not okay about that. But this is a solid 5-star read. I adored it. It may even be my favorite Wayfarer book to date. And I know that it may then seem weird that it's only at the 10 of my top 10, but I have read 107 books. Okay, this year there has been many good ones, and this is definitely one of them. Also, there is a additional Becky Chambers book on this list. So, number 10. As number 9, we actually have a book that I finished on the day before the year was over, and it is The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gorminchek. This is a reimagining / retelling of several Norse mythology legends, but it especially tells the story of Angbodar, which is the mother of 3 very special children in Norse mythology, and she has these children with the trickster god Loki, which should tell you something. I, as a Danish person and as a giant nerd, have loved Norse mythology my entire life. I have written several essays on it in school. It is something that I was very passionate about early on in my nerdy career time. And it is something that I definitely want to return to, and this was just such a wonderful, like, character-driven read. And we are meeting Angbodar the day after she has just been burned 3 times and stabbed through the heart by the Allfather Odin, after she refuses to look into the future and see a very specific thing that he wants her to see. And then we follow her as she heals and slowly learns to love Loki and love her friends. There is queer rep in here. There is very gentle, like, development and just many feelings. And it brought in so many humorous and deeply felt aspects of Norse mythology that I haven't thought about in years, and it's such a solid debut. I also found out that the author is part Swedish, or at least has a grandfather that is Swedish, so that might explain why, like, this interest in Norse mythology has arrived. But it is written very well. I definitely loved it, and it just made me want to reread the Poetic and the Prose Edda, which is the 2 major, like, bind-ups of Norse mythology stories, basically. And I loved this, and I highly recommend it, and it's therefore number 9. Next, we have a book that deserves everything and more, and I will turn into a nightmare when the 5th book comes out, and this is The House of Always by Jen Lyons, which is the 4th book in the A Chorus of Dragons series. It is a high fantasy adult series where we are following Kieran, who is the bastard son of a nobleman. However, he grew up as the adopted son of a bard, and when he is then suddenly dragged into nobility, he finds out that maybe everything is not the way that he thought it might be. There's also a lot of prophecies about him, and especially one that says that he is going to ruin the planet. So wonderful, so good, so queer. We finally get a very specific scene that I have waited for ages in here. It hurt my heart, it healed it again, and I loved it, and I want to read the whole series again every time I look at one of them. And I'm just like, the last book is coming out in 2022, and I will not be okay about it. Coming in at number 7 is this absolute stunner. This is a book that I believe came out in 2020. This is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, which I for some reason just pushed off reading. And now, as it is in my top 10, you can probably tell that I loved it. This brings together many of my favorite things, but it also brings in witches and suffragettes. And we are set in a world much like our own, but one where witches are real. They are also, however, persecuted and thought of as bad. However, they are integrated in all of their stories, all of their fairy tales, and we are following a set of 3 sisters who each have their own connection to witchery and witchdom, and it's just, and then suddenly they get involved with the suffragettes and the women's movement, and it's so good, it's so beautifully written, it's so amazing, it is queer and just, it's so good, and I want to read it again. Like, there are all of these little bits of fairy tales that are like reimagined with the witch in almost like the main role, and I want to read all of those. Alex E. Harrow give me all of them, and I'm so sad that I didn't just read this immediately, but that would have just meant that it was on my top 10 of last year instead of this year. Coming in at number 6 is this book. Can I explain what this is? No. This is The Dawn Hounds by Sasha Stronach, which is an indie published book that I believe have been picked up by a traditional publisher. However, I haven't heard anything more, but it's a series and I want to read the rest of it. It is a weird book. The way that it has been typeset is not good. But honestly, this was so good. We are following a young corrupt cop who sort of accidentally stumbles into something that she should have not, and she gets killed for it. However, it does not stick. She gets brought back to life by an ancient guard, and now she just can't die, however hard the city tries to kill her. And so she ends up trying to save this city, and it's weird, and it's futuristic sci-fi, but it's like with trees and fungi, and instead of it being like steampunk, it's with plants instead, and it's so good. There are these weird bits of it that is seen from this ancient god's perspective, and I am obsessed with it. It is supremely queer. It has a sapphic-y romance in the middle. Our main character is bi, and I'm just like, this is so weird and I love it so much. Coming in at 5 is another indie book that I feel like I have not stopped talking about, and it's this bad boy. Look at this absolute chonker. This is Spitfire by Maya Kern, which is an erotic fantasy. It follows a young dragon shifter, the prince that he is bound to, and the prince's wife to be, and they are weird and polyamorous and together, and it is sexy and it is spicy and it is violent and it fucks up gender norms and who cares shittery, and it's so good and so what the fuck did I just read at the same time. And Maya Kern is an artist that I have followed for years. She also used to make a particular webcomic that I absolutely adored, and this was just everything that I didn't know that I needed. It brought me all of the joy and all of the goodness, and the second book is apparently being like sort of put up because this book started its life on AO3, and now the second book is happening the same, and I need her to do a bound up so that I can read it and I can cry about it, and then I want you all to read it because this good. Coming in at number 4 is a tiny book that packed a punch. I read it in October or maybe last month, I don't know, but I read it and I will never stop talking about it. This is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers, which is a short story sci-fi novella where we are following 4 astronauts who from a distant future are sent out to sort of be scientists on 3 different planets. However, they have found out that they do not need to change the nature of these planets to be there. They change themselves instead so that they can better observe the animals and the life forms on these planets. And it is just humanity and goodness and queerness. The main character in here is at least pan. I believe we have a trans character in here. We have what I believe is a lesbian and an asexual character. There's only 4 characters in here and we get all of it, and it is so good. It is so wholesome. It puts out some deep dark questions that I'm just like, oh wow, and then I cried a little bit. It's less than 100 pages and I will never stop talking about it. And now we are coming in to my top 3, and this was hard. All of these could have been 1, 2 and 3, but this is just the way that we have put them because I cannot pick maybe I love the one that is number one a little bit more, but mainly these three have been in the top from the second I read them. I was like, this is going to be my faves. And the first one coming in at number 3 is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, which is a sapphic high fantasy. In it, we are following 2 separate characters. We are following a disgraced princess who is been sent into sort of like hiding / exile in an old temple to previous gods. And we are also following a maidservant who may not be just a maidservant. This is a world that deals in colonialism, it deals in war, it deals with a plague that turns people into plants. It's so good, it's so deep dive, it's so incredibly well written, and I am so excited about the Oleander Sword, which comes out next year. I believe it's this year. This year. I feel like it's this year, and I cannot wait because this was just amazing. Coming in at number 2 is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, which is a debut that I will scream about till the end of my life, I think. This is an African-inspired fantasy that deals with colonialism. Can you see a theme here? And basically we are following a soldier. We are following the heir to a throne who has sort of been disposed almost by her uncle, who is taking care of the throne for her while she is away. And the way to sort of prove to the rest of the leaders of these countries that she rules is to dampen a rebellion that is happening. And Terrain, who is the soldier that we are also following, was as a young child taken away from her country of origin and raised separately, so to be part of this big army. And now she's turned back to try and squash this rebellion of her country of origin. And it is just so incredibly well written. It is so intense. I was a little bit confused about some of the magic, but it's the first in a series. I don't know when the second book is coming out, but I really want it to be this year. And it's just stunning. And also, these are Terrain's arms, and I will marry them. Thank you very much. Please give me book number 2. It's so violent and so intense that I loved it so much. Finally, book number 1 on my top 10 is Little Thieves. And this is a retelling of the Little Goose Girl, but seen from the villainous maidservant's perspective. We are following Vanya, who is the adopted daughter of Fortune and Death. And basically, she feels like she has no fortune, no luck whatsoever. She's under disguise of the princess that she used to serve, to sort of try and get herself out of the servitude of these 2 goddesses that she was raised by. And the way that she does that is that she runs around and steals shit. She is so sarcastic. This book is surprisingly wholesome and surprisingly heartfelt. It's also just really, really funny. It has a glorious amount of queer rep and even like acknowledges pronouns, which is really great. It also just has this wonderful snarky, bantery romance at its core. And it's just, it's so good. It has some very intense trigger warnings, so please check those out. But overall, this story is just one that I will just revisit so much. Like, honestly, it was meant to be a standalone, and I believe that it has gotten such good reception that the author was just kind of like, well, I did have this other idea, and the publishers were like, yes, please. And now I am like, oh my god, give me Painted Devils already, because I will die about it. But this was so good. She also gets cursed to slowly turn into jewels because she steals the wrong thing from the wrong person. And I'm just like, the goodness, okay? So even though this year has been a bit shit, I've read some beautiful things, and that makes it okay. We also have a few very special mentions that I'm just going to very quickly show. The first one is The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik, which is the second book in the Scholomance series, which I absolutely adore. It is a magical school setting where the school is eating students, and the main character is one of my favorites of all time. And I read this in literally less than 24 hours, and it is so good. I know some people don't like it, but that's okay because I love it enough for all of us. And then we also have special mention to Holoparks by Jessica Townsend. This is the 3rd book in the Nevermore series. It is a middle grade series following Morgan Crow, who is a cursed child. And this book, it hurt my heart. I cried a little, I'm not gonna lie. I also laughed more than I have, I think, of any other book this year. And I am so excited about Silverborn, which is the 4th book coming out this year. And then last but not least, I am going to quickly mention The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst, which is another book that gently surprised me because it was just so wonderful and so funny. It follows a middle-aged wizard who used to be part of this like chosen one group, and her husband died in the last stand, and now she is just desperately trying to get him back and just brings him back like a little bit at a time. And she can only do this with bones, and that's illegal. But it's so good. I want people to read it. It has middle-aged heroes, and that's apparently all I want. You are welcome to my top 10 of 2021. These are wonderful. These brought me through the year, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this little video. And if you did, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button at the same time so you don't miss out on any other videos from me. You can also click the little bell which will give you a notification when I put up a new video, which I will try to do more often. And then I hope that you guys have read some wonderful books in the last year, and I hope that hopefully, yes. And I hope that the next year will bring us even better ones, including a better year altogether. But remember that I'm proud of you and you are doing great, and I'll see you soon.